Wrestling fans, are you ready?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
I am the voice of the voiceless.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Sorry about your damn luck.
I deserve one more match.
It's gonna be the end of the world as you know it.
Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant Radio for August 19th, 2014. I'm your host with the most. Bleacher Report features columnist Graham Jason Matthews with a jam-packed edition of the show here today. We're talking SummerSlam from this past Sunday night and Monday Night Raw from last night, August 18th, 2014. Two of the best wrestling shows that I've seen in quite some time, in my personal opinion. We're talking both those shows and getting my full review of both events in just a bit. I'll also be airing my exclusive interview with former New England Championship Wrestling champion Slyck Wagner Brown. We had him on the show back in March of this year. However, he has since been sidelined with a very serious injury that has kept him out of the ring for the last couple of months. We're talking to him about his road to recovery, his wrestling school, the passing of the Ultimate Warrior, the Iron 8 tournament, and much, much more. So make sure to stay tuned for that interview, that exclusive interview that you won't catch anywhere else in the latter half of the show. But before we get into any of that, I just want to discuss some brief news and notes from WWE and TNA respectively. Kicking it off from the WWE, the official signing of Kevin Steen as of last Tuesday. Very excited to announce that. Very excited to hear about that. It has been official for quite some time now. Any member of the IWC, of the Internet Wrestling community, has known about this for probably since about May or June. It became a well-known fact. It's probably been the worst hidden secret, worst kept secret by the WWE in the last couple of months, but along with the signings of Prince Devitt and Kenta. But all three guys have passed their physicals. They've all been officially signed by the WWE, so which is great to see, great to hear. Kevin Steen, unlike Prince Devitt and Kenta, I am more familiar with. I've been watching ROH a bit more. I probably my first ROH show ever. I watched back in May of this year, and I've been watching ROH on a regular basis since then. So for the last couple of months, I've been watching Kevin Steen in ROH. Very excited to see him in the WWE. Just to think all the potential matches that he could have with the likes of Sami Zayn, a.k.a. El Generico, who he does have history with from Ring of Honor, Prince Devitt and Kenta themselves, along with Adrian Neville, even Tyler Breeze. There's a lot of potential fantasy matchups when it comes to Kevin Steen in the WWE, so I'm very much looking forward to how he performs in the developmental system of the WWE and eventually the main roster. So yeah, Kevin Steen, great in the mic, great in the ring, very great hand to have in the company. So I'm glad to see WWE has officially signed him to a contract. Looking forward to what he can accomplish in WWE when he makes his debut. I'm not exactly sure. I know he's set to report to the Performance Center sooner rather than later. I think at the end of August. I want to say the 25th, but I'm not exactly sure. But either way, if you bring him up to the NXT roster along with Kenta and Prince Devitt at the same time, we're going to be in for a hell of a fall season for NXT. So I very much look forward to that. Also from the WWE in terms of news and notes, WWE has incorporated their all-new logo onto everything. As of last Wednesday, it was now on the WWE headquarters in Stamford, where I live here in Connecticut. It has also been put on everything. As of last night's Raw, it is on all the turnbuckles, the announce tables, the Raw graphics, everything, which is great to see. It was only a matter of time since it was kind of confusing. They had put it on some stuff at SummerSlam and not on other stuff as of, on like the TV on the bottom of the corner of the screen. They had the WWE logo, but it was the old logo. So they started officially incorporating it into stuff as of Monday night's Raw, which is great to see. The logo itself, my opinion of it, I wrote a Facebook blog about this a couple of days ago, but I really don't think it's all that bad. I'm not going to say it's an improvement over the old one. I really do much like the old one, and if it was up to me, I would not have changed it, but I could see why they changed it. It signals a new change, a new era in the WWE, which is probably, we are kind of in the midst of a new changing of the guard, so to speak, with the WWE Network, and so many top stars, atop the company. We didn't get a new logo when new stars were rising in the company, like in 2002 or 2005, but With that being said, though, it is a new time in WWE. The old scratch logo just screamed Attitude Era. So with that being said, I think getting the new logo is beneficial for WWE. So my opinion of the new logo, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I just tolerate it. But I can see why they incorporated it, and kind of matches the new network anyway. So as long as it makes sense, as long as it's universal across everything and not on some stuff and not on others. As long as that's happening, that's all that's important to me personally. But I'm okay with it. I like it more than I do hate it. But I haven't seen all that much hatred towards the new logo anyway. So that's good to see. But anyway, WWE entering an all-new era with their new logo as of this past Monday night. So I just wanted to point that out. But when it comes to TNA, a few things to talk about when it comes to TNA here. That I did really want to discuss. Kicking it off here with TNA Impact moving to Wednesday nights now for the first time ever. I know they had a very brief stint on Mondays for a while in 2010 when they thought they could attempt to rival Monday Night Raw, and that was an epic failure of an experiment. And I just still laugh at that to this day, because why they thought that would be a good idea is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But anyway, they're moving to Wednesday nights. The reason has not really officially been disclosed by TNA. A lot of people are just citing the football ratings, but that's been the case for Impact for years. For the last 10 years that they've been on TV, they've always run into competition when it comes to football. And the Impact ratings have never really changed. Some people might cite that the rating has changed a tenth of a point in the last few years, but I couldn't care less about that kind of shit anyway. So whether it has changed or declined or risen, it doesn't really matter to me. For the most part, the rating for TNA Impact Wrestling on Thursday nights has remained consistent over the last 10 years. So with that being said, I am completely content with them moving to Wednesdays. There has been nothing on Wednesdays for quite a while now when it comes to wrestling. WWE Main Event used to air on Wednesdays, but of course that has been since moved to Tuesdays, airing live on the WWE Network. Also on Thursdays, we have NXT, we have Superstars, so I'm glad that we are not getting a couple. For me personally, I run into the issue that I have to watch either Impact live first and I watch NXT later on the network, or maybe if there's something on NXT that particularly intrigues me more than something on Impact, then I watch NXT first and Superstars. And I know I'm one of the only of two people that still watch Superstars in 2014, but nevertheless, to watch 3 programs in one day, for me personally, is a bit of an overkill. So I'm glad that Impact is moving to Wednesdays. Now it's a bit more balanced with Raw on Mondays. Tuesdays, we've got Main Event. Wednesdays, TNA Impact Wrestling. Thursdays, we've got NXT and Superstars for some, like myself. And Friday, we have SmackDown. And, of course, on Sundays, the occasional pay-per-view. Now, I know that will not be the official schedule for wrestling going forward, because as I said in last week's show, SmackDown has been rumored to be moving to Thursdays sooner rather than later. I know they let the cat out of the bag when it came to the production truck botch, when they put Thursdays at 8 and instead of Fridays at 8, they got ahead of themselves in that respect. So I don't know when that change will take place. I would assume, like I said last week, it will take place in October. As SmackDown, I believe, their new season usually kicks off in October. Because if I can recall correctly, in 2008, in 2009, 2010, 2011, whenever else, when they moved networks to Sci-Fi, that was really when they started doing it in early October of whatever year it was. So if I had to take a guess, they will be moving to Thursdays in October, which isn't all that far away anyway. It's only about 2 months, less than that actually, since it's about late August as I record this. But anyway, though, I like the move to Wednesdays for TNA Impact Wrestling. I, for one, do not have to sit through many hours of wrestling on a Thursday night, so I like it. SmackDown moving to Thursdays might have played a factor for TNA. I know there was a report shortly after that report went viral, I guess I could say. A couple of weeks ago, I heard a report, or I had read a report, that TNA Impact Wrestling officials were just, shitting their pants over the thought of SmackDown feuding with them on Thursday nights. I mean, NXT is as bad as it is, in the sense that they're feuding with one another. And NXT isn't on a network. The ratings haven't changed at all for Impact over the last couple of months. But NXT, a lot more people I see, from my timeline anyway on Twitter, I see more people talking about and tweeting about NXT than Impact, which might not be the best sign, the best indicator that people are watching your product. But anyway, though, I think it's a good move for TNA. I like it. How long it lasts, I have no idea. They can announce all these different moves to different nights. They can announce all these different partnerships. But much like with Global Force Wrestling, you need a fucking TV deal in place, which is something they do not have at this point in time. They do not have a TV deal, which is what they need to continue going with Spike TV. And like I said many weeks ago when the news first broke that Spike TV had quote-unquote canceled Impact Wrestling, I still believe to this day that Impact will find a new network, whether it be the Weather Channel or the Spanish Channel, whatever it is, they will find a new home. And I surely hope they do, because I do not like Spike and all the fucking cop reruns that we get every single hour of every single day on the network. I'm not saying I watch it, obviously not, but I just hate having, Impact, it goes off the air and then Cops is on, Cops leading into it, Cops leading off of it. That's the only drawing point of that network, and Spike TV has done such a terrible job, and they're not the only ones to blame, but they do play a factor in the lack of awareness, product awareness of TNA. So with that being said, though, I like the move to Wednesday nights. Hopefully they can find a boost in ratings. I know they won't this week, because whenever you change to new nights, it always impacts the ratings in the sense that people don't know that they have moved to the new night. And even TNA has done a terrible job of advertising the fact that they have moved to Wednesday nights. They aired a brief video package at the end of last week's episode on Thursday night, in that they were moving to Wednesdays, but that's about it. Over the course of the episode, they didn't say anything, and I'm not surprised, because they had taped that particular episode of Impact back in late June. So people don't know that they're moving to Wednesday, so I would not at all be surprised for the next month or two, or at least when their contract with Spike runs up, that the ratings will be shit. So we'll have to wait and see, but anyway, in other TNA-related news, Bully Ray has been rumored to have left the company. I had read that they held a talent meeting a couple of days ago. I heard about that at a house show or something along those lines. But when I went over to my friend John's house at Heel by Design on the Twitter, we watched SummerSlam together on the WWE Network at his place, he informed me that Bully Ray had told the talents at that talent meeting that he was leaving the company. And I read the same thing when I got home that night. So with that being said, that really sucks. That's a big blow to TNA if that is the case. Bully Ray has been arguably one of the biggest stars that TNA has had in the last couple of years, since his heel turn, since his transformation as Bully Ray. The guy has been a major star, whether it be as a face or heel. The guy has been one of the biggest central focuses of TNA wrestling, of their show, for the last 4 years. And for him to get up and, just up and leave, there has to be some sort of reason for it. Bully Ray has been appearing on podcasts as of late. I believe he talked with Jericho on Talk is Jericho a couple of months ago. He was recently on the Ross Report. He makes no bones about it. Bully Ray is very unspoken in that he believes that TNA does a terrible job of product awareness. I'm not saying he was showing signs of unhappiness when he was with TNA, but from what it sounded like, he did not like the way that things were being run. And this is the same guy that's being inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. Say what you will about it, but it's happening. The Hall of Fame itself and the legitimacy of it and whatever else. The TNA Hall of Fame will be inducting Team 3D, Devon, and Bully Ray, respectively, into their Hall of Fame this October on the weekend of Bound for Glory in Japan, which a lot of people still have no idea what's going on with that. It was either last month, I think it was last month, when they announced that Bound for Glory would be in Japan. A lot of people were excited about it. It was a very ballsy move, and I too was very excited about the move for Bound for Glory in Japan. It's a very, it's a big thing that has never really been done before for any other North American wrestling organization. So I like the move, but since then we have heard next to nothing about it. We've seen a few commercials here and there on Impact, promoting that Bound for Glory will be in Japan this year. But the show is less than 2 months away, and we have heard nothing about the show whatsoever. So that kind of leaves me to believe that, I'm not going to say it's not happening, but I guess that leads me to believe that they even don't have any idea what's going on with that show as of right now. But back to Bully Ray, though. They've invested too much time in his character for them to just have him get up and leave. I'm not saying they should force him to stay, but they shouldn't let him go as easy as he is. If it's as easy as him just, getting up and saying that he's gone, then that sucks, and TNA should make a stronger effort for him to stay. As of right now, in my personal opinion, I do believe that Bully Ray will re-sign with TNA. I mean, this has happened before with other talents, with Bobby Roode specifically. TNA lets their contracts of their talents expire at the very last minute without negotiating beforehand. Maybe they do, but they do a very bad job of that. Bobby Roode, like I said, was an example from last year. Bully Ray is the latest example. But like I said, it would really suck if he does indeed leave the company. The guy has a lot of talent, whether it be as a babyface or a heel. He's been the star of these New York tapings. He's been the hometown hero. He's the one who put the frickin' president of the company through a table last week. So how can you have the biggest face in your company leave just like that? Just like that. And the guy is also, I mean, spoiler alert for you guys that don't really want to be spoiled, the guy will be the central focus of one of the biggest series of tag team matches in recent TNA history. It pits the Hardys against Team 3D against the Wolves in a best-of-5 series, or best-of-4 series, I'm not really sure. Best of 4 or 5 series for the World Tag Team Championships. And the series as it is already screwed over, as Davey Richards has since been announced that he had broke his leg at a TNA house show a couple of days ago. And it's also been since reported that he will be healing, hopefully, within the next 6 to 7 weeks, which is around the ballpark that TNA will be taping their next set of tapings in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or Virginia, or whatever it is. But anyway, though, it's hopefully going to be in due time for him to, return to action when they tape their next shows. He's one half of the current World Tag Team Champions, and for 1/6, or is it 1/6? Yeah, 1/6 of the equation of this series of tag team matches to disappear, specifically given that he's one half of the World Tag Team Champions, is a big blow to that series of matches. And then when you have another guy a part of that series of matches, Bully Ray, get up and leave as well, that also serves as a problem. So I'm very intrigued as to where this all goes. Like I said before, I see Bully Ray staying with TNA. How long TNA stays around for is still the biggest question to a lot of people. Like I said before, though, I still believe they will sign a new contract not with Spike, maybe with Spike, but I do believe that either they will stay on Spike or they'll find a new network. I hope they do. But either way, TNA is here to stay for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to say that as it is the gospel truth. It's just what I believe will be happening. But Bully Ray, gone from TNA, reportedly. We'll see where that goes in coming days. So up next, I want to give my review of WWE SummerSlam from Sunday night. As I said earlier, spent the show at my buddy John Sass house at Heel by Design on the Twitter. We watched SummerSlam together on the WWE Network. Very fun to watch a show with him. Great show overall. SummerSlam has always been one of those shows in recent years that it is such a blast to look forward to. I love the 2011 installment. 2012 was good. A lot of people, frown upon that show, but I thought it was a good show. 2013 was epic as well, and now 2014 was probably even better than all the aforementioned pay-per-views that I just talked about. So, 2014, let's run down the card here. Kickoff match, Rob Van Dam versus Cesaro, RVD going over. So the reports before this was that RVD was on his way out of the company, just for another hiatus like he's been known to do before, and that he takes time off for a few months and then comes back for another 3 or 4 months. So RVD goes over Cesaro. It was really a lose-lose situation. They had a good matchup, which is not really something that you see usually with RVD and Cesaro. There were a series of matches earlier this year, and I think April or May was not all that good. But I thought this was a solid matchup, RVD going over. But both guys have been utilized so terribly over these last couple of months that there was really no winner here. I know RVD picked up a victory, but Cesaro lost another match, and I know he would win on Raw, and here is hoping that's a new sign of what they're going to do with Cesaro, but it's just mind-boggling to me, and I'll get to both guys in a second. With Rob Van Dam, I think they have wasted tremendously, and someone asked me about this in this week's #AskYouSome video, and I also plan on writing an article about it at some point in time. But Rob Van Dam, despite what you think about him, his current character or how over he is, and I still believe that the fans are still love him to this day. He is very much over with the audiences. But the guy, or however much merch he sells and stuff like that, but the guy, he's a former WWE champion. The guy has credibility in that respect. Rob Van Dam is a former top guy in the company, and for them to utilize him as an enhancement talent is mind-boggling to me. Like I said in this week's #AskYouSome video, I'm not saying he should be a world champion. I'm not saying he should be involved in any top-tier storyline, but the least they could do is put him in a storyline with a solid mid-carder, and they were on the right track. I talked about this a couple of months ago, but Rob Van Dam was involved in a very solid storyline with Bad News Barrett over the Intercontinental Championship back in May and June. And then after that feud, ran its course, they did next to nothing with Rob Van Dam. He's been jobbing ever since, and he hasn't even been able to given the chance to have good matches because his matches aren't long enough. That's what the problem is with RVD at the moment. So I hope, given that he won on both SummerSlam and Raw this week, that they plan on not pushing him, but at least giving him some sort of sense of direction before he leaves. And maybe he does. Maybe he works his final match against Randy Orton at the SmackDown tapings tonight. And maybe that's the end of RVD for the foreseeable future. Wouldn't be the first time that RVD's been taken out by Randy Orton. But if so, then his latest run with the company was a failure. And not because of him. I know some people will say that he should evolve and turn heel and whatever else. But like I said before, it's not really his fault. It's just how WWE is utilizing him. And with the case with Cesaro, here's the thing with Cesaro. And like I've said, a lot of people have asked me the question, what's up with Cesaro? Is he being buried? He's not being buried, and as I've said a couple of times, and John agreed with me when I talked about this with him, is that WWE knows what they have with Cesaro. They know his potential. They know what he's capable of. They know that he is worthy of being, not world champion just yet, but they know he's worthy of much more than being a jobber for WWE. However, they just don't really have anything for him at the moment, or at least they did before SummerSlam. Everyone being tied up in all these top-tier storylines, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, everyone else was involved in some sort of feud or storyline, that there was really no place for Cesaro on the card at SummerSlam, aside from the kickoff match with RVD. So that's why they really haven't done anything with him in the last month or so. So, with that being said, he defeated Jack Swagger on Raw. Whether they push him going forward remains to be seen. I'm not going to say that with one win that that he's bound to be pushed by next month. He's going to be involved in the world title match and Night of Champions. I'm not saying that at all. We'll have to wait and see what they do with Cesaro. With a lot of people being cleared up, maybe with John Cena. Even Cena said himself back at the WWE 2K15 panel this past weekend that Cesaro would be a great feud for him, would be the great next feud for him to work with, the great next superstar to work with, now that his feud with Brock Lesnar is over with. And I don't think it is, actually. I do think they will have a third and final rematch at Night of Champions for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, where Lesnar will hopefully go over. But after that runs its course, hopefully Cena can feud with Cesaro. Because like I said before, I think WWE knows what they have with Cesaro. They just don't really have anything for him at the moment. So that was the kickoff matchup. Hulk Hogan kicked off the show, just basically plugging the WWE Network. It was a nothing promo, but I did enjoy seeing Hulk Hogan and hearing his theme at SummerSlam. Always a treat. Kicking off the actual show, we had the IC Championship matchup. Dolph Ziggler defeating The Miz to win the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this came as a major surprise to a lot of people, as a lot of people had The Miz going over in this matchup, myself included, and Ziggler picked up the surprising victory. It doesn't do much for Miz to lose the IC title after a month, but it wasn't like he was a great champion anyway. He didn't defend it. I don't think he's won a match since he won the championship, to be honest with you. I think he's just been on commentary, and he lost that one match to Ziggler after Battleground, and he lost to Roman Reigns on SmackDown a couple of days ago, and I think that's it for The Miz in a nutshell. So anyway, I'm very happy with the decision to put the title on Ziggler, and it's very funny too. It's good timing, since it was about this time a year ago that Dolph Ziggler was quote unquote punished by management after being involved in an interview over the weekend, SummerSlam weekend, with talking disparagingly of Randy Orton, the current champion at the time, the WWE champion, and of course in the back pocket of management, Randy Orton is. So for him to speak, on bad terms of Randy Orton, I don't think it was anything really all that bad. I just think that he said that Randy Orton doesn't deserve what he has, or that he thinks that he's better than Randy Orton. I think Dolph Ziggler just ran his mouth, got him in trouble, and so began the downfall of Dolph Ziggler on the roster. So I'm glad to see him Intercontinental Champion. What he does with the title remains to be seen. He had a good match with Miz on Monday. I'm glad they didn't take the title off of him a day early like they did with Miz after after WrestleMania last year. But Miz and Ziggler has been a good feud. They've had a lot of good matches, so I look forward to seeing that continue going forward. Paige and AJ also had a very good matchup, albeit 5 minutes long and should have gone longer. Paige, your new Divas champion after Sunday night, in a very good matchup. Glad that Paige went over. I don't at all think that this is absolutely asinine to even talk about, but there was rumors running wild on Sunday and going into Monday as well that AJ will be quote-unquote distancing herself from wrestling now that she's no longer the champion. Now, we've heard these bullshit rumors before, right after she lost the title after WrestleMania this year. Back in June, I think the rumors started up again that AJ was pregnant, and she came back and won the championship, so they shut those rumors up pretty quickly. But I don't at all think that just because she lost the title that she's done with wrestling. As we saw on Monday's Raw, the feud is obviously continuing, as it should. AJ should be in chase mode during the course of this feud with Paige as the heel, and she's doing a great job in that role, might I add. So the title change was necessary. So for AJ to retain would have killed the feud. So I don't know why people are thinking that just because the AJ lost, that she's done with wrestling and she's going to go start up a family. I don't believe that whatsoever. And I know Jim Ross mentioned it on his podcast last week. Maybe that's why people are talking about it. But when was the last Jim Ross had any in-the-know type of information from WWE? He was released in September of last year. I'm a big Jim Ross fan, but he knows nothing of the insider info. He says this himself on his Twitter and shit. This is all speculation on his part. He's just, not fantasy booking here, but he's just saying what he thinks will happen, what he thinks might happen, what should happen. I don't really know, but he's not saying what he thinks will happen. He has no insider info when it comes to AJ Lee or anyone else in the WWE roster. He doesn't work there anymore. He doesn't know for sure. So I want to put that rumor to rest real quickly. But also on this show, we had Rusev and Jack Swagger. Decent flag matchup. Rusev going over here. Glad that Swagger looks strong in a feat. I mean, personally, I would have had Swagger go over in that he should have... this should have been a standard flag match and that someone should have taken the flag off the turnbuckle and, and win that way instead of via pinfall or submission. When they announced that the winner had to win via pinfall or submission, that kind of foreshadowed the finish of this contest, but Rusev is obviously the one they're pushing right now. I'm not surprised that he went over here. I'm not even against the decision to have him win. But hopefully they can find something for Swagger to do in the foreseeable future. And I've said this before here in the show, but why isn't Swagger or Rusev U.S. champion? I mean, that's just a heat magnet waiting to happen for Rusev, or just a money-making angle to happen for Swagger. It makes perfect sense. I don't know why the title was never involved in this feud, but it should be. Sheamus is not doing anything with that championship. I thought it'd be a good thing when he initially won that title back in May, but the guy hasn't done jack shit with that title since he won it 4 to 3 months ago. So take the title off of him, give it to Swagger or Rusev at Night of Champions. Doesn't really matter to me. Turn him heel for God's sakes already. It's been long overdue, but turn Sheamus heel. Get it over with. And anyway, so good matchup from Rusev and Jack Swagger. Ambrose and Rollins having a hell of a lumberjack matchup. Probably the best lumberjack matchup I've ever seen. Great stuff. Rollins going over after interference from Kane, hitting Ambrose over the head with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Rollins your victor. And they would also have a hellacious Falls Count Anywhere matchup the next night on Raw. Ambrose and Rollins have such great chemistry together in the ring, on the mic. This whole feud has been awesome. I'm absolutely loving the feud thus far, and I'm glad they're taking a break from it. I know some people are pissed that Ambrose is the hottest star that WWE has right now. Fuck you, WWE, for taking him off TV to film a crappy movie. What happened? What changed from a week ago? A week ago, people were happy that Ambrose was being filmed, was being cast in this new movie for WWE Studios. People were saying, oh, this is the first Studios movie from WWE I'm going to go and watch because he's being cast in the lead role. What happened to those rumors? What happened to those comments from fans? So that was really weird, but it needed to happen. I think this, regardless of whether Dean Ambrose had to leave to film this movie or not, writing him off TV was the best possible scenario. Even if he comes back to feud with Kane. Ambrose and Rollins, and I've said this before, John agreed with me, Ambrose and Rollins is one of those feuds that you can go back to. It's like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and that it's a feud that you can go back to whenever over the course of the next few years. It doesn't even need to be over a world championship or any title at all for that matter. It's just a personal grudge match, a personal grudge feud that people want to see. People so desperately want to see Dean Ambrose beat the living shit out of Seth Rollins, which is why I'm glad Rollins went over in both matches. It wrote Dean Ambrose off of TV in an effective and convincing fashion. It gives Rollins a big rub. Ambrose goes off to film his movie, and it also sets up Ambrose versus Kane when he comes back, which I also think could be a good feud, given their similar characters, similar crazy characters and stuff like that. So I thought that was great booking, great matchup from Rollins and Ambrose, and arguably one of the best matches, if not the best match of SummerSlam. And Brock Lesnar and John Cena was a different story. They told a different story in their contest, and I'll get to that in a bit. But Wyatt and Jericho having another good matchup, way better than their Battleground bout, I'll say that much. I know a lot of people were disappointed with that matchup. It wasn't bad, it was just very underwhelming, which I think could be the what can be said for this entire feud between Jericho and Wyatt. I know a lot of people have said they've been very disappointed with it. I would just say it's been underwhelming, not disappointing. But this matchup I thought was a significant improvement over their Battleground encounter. Sets up a rubber match at 4 Night of Champions, very much like the fact that Wyatt went over clean on Sunday. So good matchup from then. We had Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella in a much more entertaining match than I thought it ever would be. Not only from an entertainment standpoint, but we all went into this matchup thinking, and I mean, I went into this matchup looking forward to it anyway, but a lot of people thought, oh, it wouldn't be even a wrestling matchup, myself included. I thought it'd be just a glorified angle, that it would be less of a matchup, you know what I mean? So, and it was a wrestling matchup. Stephanie McMahon, for someone that hasn't been in the ring for over 10 plus years, she could go. She's not a CM Punk or a Daniel Bryan in the ring by any means, but considering her status as an in-ring competitor, she did pretty damn well for herself. So I was impressed with her showing on Sunday night against Brie Bella in what was a very entertaining matchup. The turn from Nikki Bella could be seen coming from a mile away, and I'm not even down on the idea of turning Nikki Bella heel, if only because it separates it separates Brie from Stephanie for the time being. Some people were complaining that Stephanie went over. I see nothing wrong with this whatsoever. If anything, it prolongs Brie Bella's inevitable, her eventual. What's the word I'm looking for here? Payback is the word, or vengeance, I guess I should say, over Stephanie when they eventually do face off in a rematch, or whenever happens with those two. It prolongs Brie Bella's moment of overcoming the Authority, much like Daniel Bryan. He had to overcome the Authority in 8 fucking months? It took him that long to finally beat Triple H and win the World Championship? If that's what you gotta do, that's what you gotta do. So I'm totally fine with this. I question the decision to have Nikki Bella be the one to turn heel. I mean, I said in last week's show in my fantasy booking I would have had Karma return. I think that would have been perfect. But I don't know what the status is with Awesome Kong or Karma, whatever you want to call her. Kia Stevens. I don't know what her relationship is with WWE. I believe it's good because she left on good terms a couple of years ago. I haven't even heard much from her, so I don't know what's going on with that. But Nikki Bella, based off what we saw off of Raw, I mean, her acting is terrible. We already knew that for a fact anyway, going into SummerSlam and Raw for that matter. But with that being said, though, it makes sense from a storyline standpoint after Nikki Bella had been beaten the shit out of by the Authority for months, and Stephanie McMahon said, blame Brie. She's the one who, unloaded all of this on you, so she should be the one to blame. So I could see the whole point of why she would turn heel, and the whole sister versus sister feud that would have had to happen at a later date, maybe not this soon. I just don't really have faith in this feud being any good, because both Brie and Nikki are just terrible actresses. And Stephanie was the MVP of that feud because she was so over the top as a heel and so fucking good that she made that feud entertaining and must-see. So I don't know if the same can be said for Brie and Nikki. I'm not going to shit on it before it even begins. Granted, I wasn't fond of the segment they had on Raw. I mean, it kicked off the show. The first women's segment in recent memory that has ever kicked off an episode of Monday Night Raw, which was great to see. They main evented Raw a couple of weeks ago, and they're kicking off the show, so that was a refreshing change of pace. But I don't have much faith in either Bella to carry this feud to being something good, but I will reserve my judgment until we see more of them in the ring and on the mic. So up next we had Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, in which I thought was a very good matchup. Early on it was boring, but it was solid wrestling. That they finally kicked up the notch, kicked up the pace a bit in the final few minutes with an awesome looking RKO. I mean, Roman Reigns, I think, was going for a Superman punch or a spear or something. He jumped up in midair. Orton takes him out with an RKO out of nowhere. And I know the commentators say that all the time. Hits an RKO out of nowhere, out of nowhere, out of nowhere. I know they drive that home all the time. And it gets to the point like, okay, just shut up. It's not out of nowhere. We all saw that coming. I understand that, but Randy Orton has such the best goddamn RKO I've ever seen. It's so great to see him execute in matches and moments like this. I thought this was awesome. Roman Reigns going over to the clean victory. It looks like the feud is continuing if their interaction on Monday's Raw is any indication. But, good match from Roman Reigns and Orton. Better than I thought it would be. We get to the main event. Okay, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena for the WWE World Heavyweight title. A lot of people were expecting an epic matchup, and in a way, it was an epic matchup. It was not really all that similar to their Extreme Rules matchup, and it was in the sense that Brock Lesnar had John Cena, handed John Cena's ass to him from start to finish. John Cena maybe got in maybe 2 moves the entire matchup. An absolutely glorified squash match, if there ever was one, if I've ever seen one. So, great stuff, but it wasn't extreme. There was no blood. There was no weapons. There didn't need to be. They told a hell of a story with John Cena taking the ass-beating of a lifetime, the ass-kicking of a lifetime, and just attempting to battle back, but to no avail. And what made this matchup so much better was the fact that terrible gut feeling in the back of my mind was that, is John Cena going to come out of this, hit an AA out of nowhere and win this? Because that's exactly what happened in Extreme Rules. They made the stupid decision to have him go over there. So I thought there was a part of me that thought maybe John Cena will win. Maybe they'll try to swerve viewers and have John Cena win. And I'm glad they didn't go that route. But I think that made the matchup that much better. It wasn't extremely predictable and that Brock Lesnar was going over. And some people are complaining, oh, why do you have a part-timer beat, John Cena? Look at it, people. I don't care, and I don't know when I said this. I don't know if it was in this week's hashtag AskSuSem video or last week on the show. I don't care if it's fucking Brock Lesnar, The Rock, Yoshitatsu. It doesn't matter who it is, or if it's a part-timer or not. The guy ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. What part of that don't people understand? The guy just ended the most illustrious undefeated streak in fucking pro wrestling history. They could not have had him lose on Sunday night. I don't care what you think of Lesnar. They could not have had him lose on Sunday. It would have ruined the purpose of beating the streak in the first place. And whether that was a long-term plan from the beginning, I have no idea. According to Jim Ross and Shawn Michaels, they made the decision to snap the streak the day of WrestleMania. So believe what you will, but it happened. You can't go back and change it. You got to deal with it. That's, as Batista has said in the past, just deal with it. Brock Lesnar conquered the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. It happened. You can't change it. You just got to run with it. And they did the best booking decision possible by not only having Brock Lesnar win the championship on Sunday, at SummerSlam, but absolutely, and excuse me for using this term, but just raping and murdering John Cena in that matchup at SummerSlam. He needed to be portrayed as an absolute beast of a man after, kicking the ass of The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar needed to be portrayed as an ass kicker, a dominator, and that's exactly what he was on Sunday night. Now, I don't have faith he'll do the same at Night of Champions, and it should not be the same match at Night of Champions, but it also shouldn't be as competitive. I mean, it shouldn't be a competitive matchup because Brock Lesnar is so dominant. It's really hard to say what they should do at Night of Champions, but I can guarantee you they will be doing a third and final matchup between Cena and Lesnar at Night of Champions for the title, or at least I hope. And if they don't, then I don't think Batista versus Lesnar. I do really want to see that contest. It's not a matchup you can just rush into. So Batista, I think, will be back after Lesnar takes his hiatus or Jericho takes off again. Batista will be back at some point within the next few months from what I've heard and what I personally believe. But anyway, though, I look forward to the third and final rematch. I thought everything about this matchup was great. Brock Lesnar, you new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Now the question is this. Now, I've been asked this a number of times over the last couple of days since SummerSlam. Who should be the one to conquer Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? I'll say this much. I'll say this much. The soonest it should happen is WrestleMania 31. It should not happen any sooner. It should not happen at Royal Rumble, at Survivor Series. Surely not as hell at the Night of Champions pay-per-view next month. Brock Lesnar cannot lose until WrestleMania 31 at the earliest, in my opinion. I don't care what the fuck they do with him and the interim champion and him appearing on TVs. I don't give two shits about that. And less is more with Brock Lesnar. If he's on TV every week, then it's not going to work. He cannot be on TV every week. It takes away from the mystique of Brock Lesnar that they tried so hard to build back up with his win over The Undertaker and win on Sunday night as a new champion. They finally had that mystique factor back with Brock Lesnar, and having him appear on Raw every week would take away from that. And I'm not saying he will appear on Raw every week, but I'm saying, for the people that are complaining, oh, he won't be on TV every week, so it'll take away from the title and the prestige. Who gives a fuck? Back in the day, the champion wasn't even on TV anyway. It was a special appearance. It was a special occasion whenever they did appear on TV. So I am completely fine with Lesnar being champion. It's a different story. I know I was not thrilled with The Rock being champion in 2013. I understand why they did it from a business perspective. But Rock did not end The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar did. So that's why they needed to give him the title. It was the only logical move, so I'm very happy with that. But who will be the one to beat Brock Lesnar? Daniel Bryan, from his storyline standpoint, makes no sense. Having him come back, win the Royal Rumble, sure, that'd be awesome. I would love to see it. I'm not saying anything against it whatsoever. Daniel Bryan, given his size, his stature, should not beat a legitimate ass kicker in Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar had John Cena, had his ass handed to him at SummerSlam, John Cena that is, then there is, Daniel Bryan does not stand a snowball's chance in hell of defeating Brock Lesnar in the ring, outside of the ring, whatever. Daniel Bryan, it would be a great matchup, don't get me wrong, but Daniel Bryan should not be the one to beat Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is the one that a lot of people are predicting. JR has been saying that for months. I wholeheartedly agree. Whether Roman Reigns is ready by WrestleMania time remains to be seen. That's the biggest question right now. But a lot can change from August to March and April of next year. So I'm not saying I would be opposed to that. If anything, I look forward to seeing Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar. I'm all on board for that booking decision. But Roman Reigns still has a long ways to go in terms of improvement on the mic and in the ring over the next 7 or 8 months. Whether he can get to main event status by WrestleMania time, like I said before, remains to be seen. But I personally would have Roman Reigns be the one to beat Brock Lesnar. It should not be The Rock. I hate the rumors of The Rock being the one to beat Brock Lesnar or face him for the championship. I know they want to do that fantasy rematch from SummerSlam 02. They had a great matchup that night. But it's not a matchup that you need to go back to. I know they were going to do it about a year or so ago for WrestleMania this year, for WrestleMania 30. I know they're going to kick off that angle and do it for WrestleMania 30. And, God only knows what direction WWE would be taking right now if Lesnar did not end the streak of WrestleMania and whoever it would have been. It's really funny to think about. We probably would not be talking about this right now in terms of Lesnar even being champion. But Rock and Lesnar is not a matchup. I'd be fine with it if it wasn't over the championship, but like I said before, Lesnar should not lose the title anytime before WrestleMania 30, so therefore I did not want to see that matchup at that event next year in New Orleans, in Santa Clara, California. I do not want to see that at WrestleMania 31. Cesaro, some people have suggested. I'd be open to that. It makes sense in that Cesaro is a former Paul Heyman guy. He will turn face, goes on to beat Brock Lesnar, his scary strength. Even he does not stand a chance of beating Brock Lesnar, but he has a better chance, a legitimate chance of being seen as more of a threat than Daniel Bryan, that's for sure. So I'd be fine with Cesaro. I would love to see that. I just don't see them building Cesaro up as the next face of the company and beating Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania next year for the title. Roman Reigns makes the most sense to me, so I have my money on Roman Reigns being the one to, quote-unquote, conquer Brock Lesnar come WrestleMania season. But that being said, yeah, Brock Lesnar, your new WWE Heavyweight Champion after SummerSlam 2014. So, that's going to do it for my SummerSlam review. Really nothing from Raw. Like I said before, I thought it was a good show. But we're kind of cutting it close here to the end of the hour. I still want to air my interview with Slyck Wagner Brown. I'll get to that in a minute. But, yeah, in terms of other stuff that happened on Raw, Mark Henry and Rusev will be feuding soon, which I look forward to. Rollins and Ambrose, already talked about that before. Swagger being beaten by Cesaro, his first win in a while for the Cesaro, that is. Yeah, the new championship belt was awarded to Brock Lesnar on Monday. Paul Heyman delivering a hell of a promo. I thought it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal, whatever. Pun on The Undertaker's nickname there. But anyway, I thought that was great. If there's any one thing that you should go back and see from Raw this week, it should absolutely be that promo. But yeah, Night of Champions is shaping up to be good. If Jericho's going to be around for it, Brock Lesnar. I don't think Batista will return for Night of Champions, but if we get Ziggler versus Miz again and AJ versus Paige, then Night of Champions should be good this year after the disaster of a show that we got last September. That's for fucking sure. So hopefully we don't get a repeat of that. But yeah, WWE looking good these days. I'm looking forward to where they go from here. And here's hoping they can stay the course with Brock Lesnar going forward. So on that note, that's going to close out my reviews of Raw and SummerSlam. Basically my overall thoughts on WWE in the last couple of days. So I look forward to where they go from here. And now we'll carry it into my interview with Slyck Wagner Brown. Like I said before, we had him on the show back in March of this year at the time had won his first New England Championship Wrestling Championship for the first time since 2001. So for him to win that championship and to drop it just a short period of time later due to injury really sucks. And he talks all about that in our subsequent interview. And I apologize for the shitty audio. I recorded this on my recorder. We talked to him over the phone, so it was not the best of quality on my end, and I do take the blame for that. But hopefully the next time I see him, we can get another follow-up interview. We could talk in person, and I will be back on Endicott campus in actually 2 weeks from today. So when I do get back on campus, I'll have the equipment to call over the phone and have my end will at least be better and not as shitty as you're about to hear it right now. But anyway, it's a great interview regardless of the audio quality. We talked about his road to recovery, his wrestling school, his passing, his thoughts on the passing of the Ultimate Warrior, given that the Ultimate Warrior, much like with me, it was an icon of his. So we talked about that a little bit. We talked about the Iron 8 tournament, his thoughts on what he's going to be doing when he gets back from his injury, when he will be back from his injury. We also talk about the Iron 8 tournament, the crowning of the new champion, Brad Hollister, how he's doing as champion right now, and also his interesting thoughts on the new Nation of Domination with Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi Kingston. I don't want to go into a rant on the show about how they dropped that fucking angle. That really pissed me off when they did that, and it looks like it is indeed over. But that being said, though, you can get my thoughts on that in this week's hashtag Ask You Some Video. It's actually the first question I'm asked in the video, so if you wanted to go check that out. But we talked about that with SWB in the interview towards the end of it. And this was, of course, before they dropped the angle. He talks about how he's intrigued by it, as am I. But like I just said, it's blink and you miss it kind of angle because now it's over already, which kind of sucks. But anyway, great interview. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back after this with some more shameless plugs to close out the show. So enjoy the interview.
Jason Matthews here today with another exclusive interview with an individual who has been on WrestleRant Radio before, the former NECW Heavyweight Champion, Slyck Wagner Brown. How's it going today, Slyck?
Good, man. How's it going?
Doing good. And the last time I talked to you, here on the show was back in March, shortly removed after you won the NECW for the title for the first time in almost 12 years. And it was a short while later that you suffered an injury that has taken you off the shelf for a number of months. So just can you give an update on what your injury is and what your actual injury is and what you suffered?
Yeah, doctor diagnosed me with a ruptured patella tendon. So basically the tendon that's attached to the bone in the middle of the knee got separated. So, and it's not even a crazy story how it happened. Just something simple, wrestling in the ring on a show that, I do all the time.
Well, early on, too, because I know you were at the April NECW show, and you said you were giving an update on your injury, and that you were only going to be out for a short period of time, but it ended up being a lot longer than you guys thought it would be, and you would have to drop the championship. So it was one of those things where you thought you would only be out for a few weeks, or did you know from the start that you would be out for an indefinite period of time?
No, I mean, I thought I was going to be out for a short period of time because when I got injured at the show, the doctor at the show said he thought it was a ruptured patella, just by describing how it happened in the ring. Then when I went to the emergency room the next day, after staying up all night drinking beer because I was in so much pain and driving 4 hours back to Connecticut from New York State, I went to the emergency room and they gave me an X-ray, and they didn't see any breaks, and just by doing some minor tests, they thought I had a sprained knee. So I was happy with a sprained knee because a sprained knee means I was going to come back sooner. But I waited, they said, the swelling should go down, the pain should subside within 4 to 6 weeks. So I waited 4 to 6 weeks, and the swelling barely went down, and the pain never went away. So, I was still in constant pain, and the swelling was brutal. It was really, really big. So I was on Motrin and just icing it every single day, multiple times a day. And, there's barely any changes that you can notice. So I decided to call back the hospital, and, I told them what happened, how I haven't seen any changes in 6 weeks. And they wanted me to come in and start from scratch again, go through ER and all that. And I was like, that's crazy. I already went through it. I already took an X-ray. I don't need to do that anymore. There's more than a break,
Yeah.
So I was like, screw this. I'm not going through that again. And I just called Hartford Hospital, went in, they gave me an ultrasound just by seeing my knee and took
starting to train to get back in the ring again, or no idea yet?
I'll know more once I start PT. I mean, right now, doctor's saying probably like 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Before I get
Okay.
sports again.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, who knows, you know? Last time another told me I had a sprained knee, too. So, but these guys are pretty good. So, you know, I think they're on the ball with them. With things.
Exactly. They're the professionals. They know what they're talking about. Exactly. So, what was the first thought that went through your mind when you realized that the injury was a lot worse than you originally thought it would be, and that because this was at the time that you had just won the NCW Championship back, like I said before, for the first time in well over a decade. So what was the thought process? You know, what was going through your mind when you realized that I have to drop the championship because I won't be able to defend it going forward?
Disappointment, man. I was very disappointed, you know, because things are just starting to roll again, you know what I mean? I won the championship, and, you know, the future looked good, and I was looking forward to defending against, like, the best talent, not just in New England, but the best talent in the nation or even the world, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just to know that that's not going to happen really, really sucks, you know? So I was just, you know, there's nothing I can do, you know? It was out of my hands. I wish it didn't happen. I've been doing this for a long time, and this is the worst injury I've had in my career. I've never had any major injuries. I've never had surgery, you know? So this was really tough for me, and it gave me a new outlook, you know? A lot of guys went out with knee injuries over the, you know, last few years, guys I know like Jay Freddy and Tommaso Ciampa, and, you know, now I know what they went through when they were on the shelf, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One is tough. It's tough. You got to be mentally strong, physically strong, you know, because you can't do anything. You know, you just laid up doing nothing. You can't go to the gym. You can't help yourself. You can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rough. It definitely builds character and humbles you.
And it was a great moment as well when you were forced to relinquish that championship back at the Northeast Wrestling Championship event back in April here in Beverly. And it was a great moment where you had to drop the championship, and it was a very emotional segment when you came out to drop the title, and a great round of applause from those in attendance. And you were also there at the event. That was at the Iron Age Championship, the tournament that night, where they crowned a new champion in Brad Hollister. So I wanted to get your thoughts being there live and going out there to congratulate Brad Hollister later on in the night. What were your thoughts on the event as a whole, the show? And I thought, personally, I thought it was one of the best shows I've ever been to, WWE, NECW-wise ever. I thought it was an excellent show. But what were your thoughts on the show as a whole, as well as Brad Hollister getting his first shot, his first run with the NECW World Heavyweight Championship?
Words can't describe what I saw that night. I mean, I saw all those guys go out there and just put it all on the line. Those guys busted their ass every single time they were in that ring that night. It was a great moment, great show. I wish I could have been a part of it. It was even more painful just sitting there watching and not being able to do anything. But it was great, man. I was real proud of those guys, and I was like, wow, you know, these guys really came tonight to impress these fans and, you know, basically do what they love to do, man. And it was definitely one of the best shows I've seen live in a long time. Definitely.
Absolutely action-packed. Yeah, I thought the wrestling itself was just a spectacle within itself. I thought it was a great show as a whole. But with that being said, though, of course, your number one priority upon your return, whenever it may be, whether it be later this year or, like you said, 6 months down the line in early of 2015, is your number one priority. Well, of course, it's coming back to the ring, but once you make it back into the ring, is it recapturing the NECW title that you never officially lost?
Definitely, that's my main focus, you know. I mean, granted, after, you know, get myself back in shape and get myself ready to get back in the ring. But yeah, definitely, I'm zeroing on that title, you know what I mean? That title means a lot to me. Like I said, it's one of the first belts I ever won in my career, first major titles, my first heavyweight championship, and, you know, being from the New England area, and initially being one of the premier promotions, you know, it was big. So, I think Brad is doing a great job with the title right now. He's a wrestling machine, and, you know, I look forward to coming back and, you know, maybe challenging him for the belt. Whoever's the champion at that time. I'm not stepping here with Brad, especially after what he showed at the RNA. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When eventually you do come back, is there anyone in particular, whether it be, of course, like you just said, the champion, whoever it may be, Brad Hollister, Antonio Thomas, is there anyone specifically that you're looking to mix it up with? Because I know personally, it looked like you and Antonio Thomas, I mean, best friends within the ring and outside of the ring as well. It looked like you guys had a very good thing going, that a future feud between you guys was very much possible. And of course, course, your injury just gone through those plans to the wayside, unfortunately. So whether it be Hollister, Antonio Thomas, or anyone else, is there anyone specifically that you're looking to step in the ring with upon your return?
Like I said, any of those guys that were in the higher date, Jay Freddie, Thomas, Wayne, Dirty Money, any of those guys are all top shelf athletes. And, Jeremy Crawford is an old rival of mine. I would love to see the ring with him again, especially with the title being on the line, whether he's champion or I'm champion, whatever way it may be. I'd love to mix it up with him again, you know what I mean? I love getting in the ring. I love what I do, and I love competing against the best. And, those guys are some of the best guys, not only in NHW, but in wrestling. Another guy, for that matter, I love to mix it up with is AJ Styles. Early in my career, I wrestled him in a multi-man match, but I'd love to get him in a singles match. He's on top of his game right now.
Absolutely, yeah. He's on top of the indie scene right now as the IWGP champion, so it's great to see, or one of the not the IWGP or whatever the championship is. The name escapes me right now, but yeah, he's on the top of his game on the indie scene right now. But with that being said, the last time we talked here on the show, you were talking about your school, your wrestling school here in the Connecticut area. How has that been going with your injury over the last couple of months? Is that still running smoothly?
Yeah, I just came back to the Connecticut area. I just reopened, resumed classes. I started the school in January, and I had to take a 3-month hiatus because of the injury and the surgery. So my first class was Tuesday, which was yesterday, and things went well. The guys did a great job, and it's like they didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean? 3 months off, and they didn't show any signs of it. So I was looking forward to working with those guys, and down the line, 6 to 8 months from now. Everyone's seeing those guys on shows, still the journey of their career, you know what I mean? And just growing the school, it's in its infancy right now, and I have a lot of work ahead of me just to market it and brand it and get things going, get some new signups.
Were there any other trainers that took your place while you were out with the injury, or are you the only one that's directing the classes at your school?
No, it's just me right now. I don't have any partners or anything like that. So, it's just me. I do training, I run everything, I brand it, market it, so everything is on me right now.
Well, it's great to see that you're back in the school despite still being injured, though. It's great that you're back 3 months within your injury, so it's cool that it's still running smoothly. And what area is it located in here in Connecticut? Waterbury, right. So for more information on that, where can people go to if they want to check it out?
SWBforreal.com. You'll see a flyer on the left side of the page. Just click on the flyer, and it'll give you all the information pertaining to the school.
And of course, the last time that we talked back in March here on the show. I just want to talk about 2 topics, one of which I was going to ask you the last time, but I forgot. But of course, the passing of the Ultimate Warrior, a big fan of the Ultimate Warrior, both you and myself. And we talked before that happened. What was the first thing that went through your mind when that occurred?
Surreal, man. Surreal. We just, the Warrior's been gone a long time from the WWE. I met the Warrior personally at a big-time wrestling show in Boston, Massachusetts. He was a great guy. I mean, he came in and shook everyone's hand. And, I remember thinking in my mind, like, wow, this guy made it at WrestleMania. He's done a lot of good things in the business, made a lot of money, made it at WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan, beat him. And this guy walked in the dressing room with a bunch of unknowns and guys trying to make a name for themselves and try to do things that he did and shook every single guy's hand. I just remember thinking, like, the way he made me feel, shaking hands, it was like he knew me forever. You know what I mean? It's like I knew this guy forever, but I just met him. And it just makes you think, there's some guys that come in the locker room and don't do that. And this guy has done everything in the business and continues to do that. And it's just, that's respect, and that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Great guy. So when I found out that he passed on, it was crazy because he was just on Raw. He was just on Hall of Fame before WrestleMania. He was on WrestleMania, and next thing is gone. So just reminds everyone that you're on borrowed time and just make the best of the time that you have. You know what I mean? Live every day like it's your last.
Absolutely. It was awesome that you were able to pay tribute to the Warrior at the NECW show only a few days later, because that occurred on the Tuesday, and then the NECW show happened either on that Friday or Saturday, so it was great timing. But with that being said, though, my thoughts are very much the same in that. And just one last miscellaneous topic that I wanted to discuss with you that I forgot to talk about last time when you were on the show, but a very wide topic has always been, and especially the last few few months that I've noticed is this quote-unquote racism in WWE, that WWE holds down the African-American wrestlers and stuff like that, because a lot of their talent, whether it be Kofi Kingston or Big E or Xavier Woods or whoever else, have been held down in recent months and stuff like that. And no better timing have they just brought up this new Nation of Domination stable of sorts that people are talking about, or branding it as, whether it be that or not, who knows. But what are your thoughts on there never really, aside from The Rock, never really being a black world champion in WWE? And what are also your thoughts on the new stable consisting of Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E? Where do you see that going as well?
I'm excited for those guys, you know. Individually, they weren't doing much lately, you know what I mean? So to put them together and try to, you know, accomplish something and let them try to do something is great. I think it's really good. And, you know, the better they do, it'll be good for the business as a whole, you know, because there's not too many, you know, minority, like black guys trying to get into the wrestling game, you know what I mean? And that's also a testament to what they see on television. So if black talents are doing good on TV, then, you know, chances are guys are not going to try to, you know, get involved in the business. And, you know, so it's good. I mean, the better those guys do, it helps everyone, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I hope they, you know, get a chance to do something good, and they give them the time to do whatever they're doing and make it work, you know, because right now a lot of angles get started and they're done in a short period of time. So,
good point.
You know, things take time to, you know, to mature. So hopefully they get that kind of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's hoping, like you just said before, a lot of angles nowadays, creative gets excited about them, but then they drop into the wayside only weeks in, and then they're never resurfaced again. So here's hoping that this isn't one of those things. It's been so far so good. It's only been a week, of course, as of when we're talking about it. But even so, though, it's been a cool angle thus far, and here's hoping that they can make the most and utilize those talents of Kingston, of Woods, of Big E, because all three of those guys are extremely talented and have a lot to offer. So with that being said, anything else you would like to add before we let you go?
No, man. You know, just you know, there's not really much going on. Just my injury, and just like school right now. I'm just, you know, hoping to get back sooner than later. And you know, I'm excited for the future, man. I appreciate you taking the time for this interview.
Absolutely. It was great catching up with you, man. I'll be back on the Endicott campus, whether you be at the shows or not. Well, are you still attending the NEW shows even though you're injured, or are you just staying home and resting right now?
I am, because I'm helping out behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I'm not sure if I'll be doing all the shows. Mm-hmm. We haven't really narrowed that down yet. But I did a last show that was at the fair, and where was it? It was in I don't remember where it was, but it was in Massachusetts. Yeah. So I helped out behind the scenes of that, and you know, they were happy about it, and you know, they want to do it more. So I'm looking forward to that. I like to stay busy, man. I love the game, and you know, it's an opportunity for me to learn a different side of the business as well. You know, so.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely. You know, staying in touch with NECW, even though you are out with an injury, and like you just said before, they've been touring over the course of the summer, kind of branching away from the community center, from the Cove Community Center in Beverly, and been going all over the Massachusetts area. That's great for them. They've been flourishing over the last couple of months. So, yeah, here's hoping I'm able to catch up with you soon in one of the future events. And before we let you go, make sure to plug your Facebook, Twitter, where people can find you, your website, all that great stuff.
My website is swdforreal.com. Mm-hmm. My Twitter is @thisisSWD, and you can pretty much link up to my YouTube and my Facebook pages from there. Those are my main, you know, my main contacts. So Twitter @thisisSWD, and my website swd4real.com.
Sounds great, man. Thanks again for coming on for the interview. I appreciate it. I'll catch up with you soon, and have a good one.
All right, Graham. Thank you, man. Just let me know when it's online, and I'll retweet it and or post it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks. I'll see you down the road.
All right, and that's going to do it for this week's edition of WrestleRant Radio. Thanks again to Slyck for coming on the show for another awesome interview. I look forward to seeing him soon. Best of luck to him on his road to recovery. And thanks to you guys for listening to the show. WrestleRant Radio goes up every Tuesday right here exclusively on nextyearwrestling.weebly.com. We've got a lot of new columns this week. My thoughts on SummerSlam, Raw, my full thoughts on both shows right on here on the website. My good friend Thomas Brunt, he's got a new column up on Brock Lesnar and why it's a different yet intriguing style of champion for the WWE, so make sure to check that out. Very good friend John Nichols, mentioned him before here in the show. He's been here on the show numerous times before, at Heel by Design on the Twitter. You can check out his column, John's Jargon, on Next Era Wrestling right here on the site. He talks about Brock Lesnar taking that title from John Cena, the ass-kicking he got and deserved at SummerSlam. New column up here on the website. So a lot of cool stuff here on the site. Make sure to check it out. Also, you can find me on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook as well at Graham GSM Matthews, YouTube same thing, Bleacher Report same thing. New columns going up all the time for WhatCulture.com for the WWE section. The article that I wrote last week on the top 10 legitimately good acting performances by wrestlers in movies got a hell of a lot of hits, so thanks for everyone that read that and all the positive feedback. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back next week with another jam-packed edition of WrestleRant Radio. John, thanks to him for having me over at his house to watch SummerSlam this past Sunday night. I was only there for the show. I got picked up. I got dropped off right before the show started and left right after the show ended. So hopefully, if I do see him soon, we'll have him back on the show for another great interview to pick his brain on his thoughts on WWE, TNA, SummerSlam, and much, much more. So with that being said, folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you right back here next week with another edition of WrestleRant Radio. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and we'll see you then.